Hello and welcome to Civic Beat. I'm Nyesha McCauley and we are here in the proverbial day after the primaries in Connecticut. Specifically, we want to talk about the day after or the couple of days after Hartford's primary. And to do that, I have joining me on today's Civic Beat Gwen Samuel. Gwen Samuel is no stranger to Access TV, Hartford, or the state of Connecticut. She is president and founder of Connecticut Parents Union, advocating for equity and education all around this country in Connecticut. So welcome, Gwen, to Civic Beat. Thank you for joining me this morning.
And thank you for having me. I want you to know Hartford is the talk of the town right now, across the state.
Okay.
And I'm excited for the Civic Beat to talk about civic education. I'm here for all of it.
All right. Well, that is what we are going to talk about today. So Hartford had a primary as well as a couple of other towns in Connecticut. We had our primary on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, September 12th. And, you know, the official numbers have come out, Gwen, and I know you had a chance to look at them and, you could look at it two ways. It's a cause for celebration, but it's also a cause for some head scratching.
Right. Most definitely that, especially with your numbers with turnout, right? So I think context matters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So number one, it's not just Hartford, Connecticut, the state of Connecticut. Mm-hmm. This is Hartford, Connecticut, the fourth poorest city in America, in one of the top 5 wealthiest states in America. So you can't get any, what do you call it, oxymoron?
That's right.
This thing going on, right? We got these dynamics going on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then on top of that, you got the poorest city that is also in the capital with the gold dome, right? Where we pay like the highest electrical bills in the country, where we pay some of the highest. And so context matters. And so while we should celebrate that Hartford stood up and said no more business as usual. And how you know that? Because your career politicians have been in office well over a decade. Mm-hmm. Whether they performed well or not, mm-hmm. That's important to note that in a majority urban community that is known for blindly trusting folk, right? Because we are compassionate people, right? As people of color, right? We just are, right? We'll invite you in our homes. We'll invite you in our churches. We see how that happened in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, we're very inviting. So, complacent. So, I'm going to call career politicians complacent. Because we've seen races in Connecticut where incumbents don't even have no one running against them.
Right.
That's a dangerous thing. So, that's one way to win. But Hartford, granted is 14%. You voted. You made an informed decision. Because some people thought, well, we've been voting for the same people forever. Let's just go, name recognition. Drop the polls, go home, go eat.
Right.
That didn't happen. People had to choose. People that probably loved, probably still do, some of your career politicians. Care for them as people, right? Because mm-hmm. we care for the career politicians, but not enough to vote for.
Right.
And so that is the success of Hartford and why we should celebrate it, because it could give hope to other towns who are thinking that there's just no hope, that it's just status quo, business as usual. And Hartford said no. It's no longer business as usual.
Right.
But you still got a lot of work to do for general elections.
Yes.
To make sure that the candidates that they want, that maybe they didn't get a chance to vote for or weren't a part of the primaries, they can vote for in the general election.
Exactly. So this 14%. So the way that breaks down, the overall turnout was less than 5,000 people in Hartford. You had 3 candidates on the ballot, and the highest vote getter received 2,121 votes. So 14% is a major decline. It's just a major decline in turnout. But like you're saying, it is speaking louder to the fact that Hartford chose not to go with the career politicians this time.
Right. They put themselves, and it's important to note this. Hartford put itself first. Because if you think about voting, the history of voting, especially in the Black community, I'm going to talk to us for a minute. You notice, I don't care if you're a career politician or not, they go beeline for our churches, right? Because they know that's where the masses come to. They know that we are spiritual people, right? Just based on the history of being Black in America, right? And so we get this because the pastor said we should vote for Mr. Joe, right? Or Mr. Joe or Mrs. Sarah goes to our cookouts. And so because we're such emotional creatures, right? I know his name now.
Right.
So every election, if you notice, they say, vote row A, vote row B. And then you ask, who's in vote row A? I don't know, girl, but they told us to vote row A, vote B. That didn't happen.
Right.
They had to make a choice this primary. And so that is the strength. But it is dangerous. If I'm right, if I'm correct, I think Hartford has, is it 100,000 registered voters? They were giving the numbers of how many active voters you have across the state, Democrats and Republicans. So you have you know what I mean?
There's about 30,000 roughly Democrats in the city of Hartford. That number does increase for the general election when we fold in the unaffiliated and the Republicans. So the numbers increase to about 60,000, but there's about 30,000 30,000 Democrats in the city that had an opportunity to go out and vote on Tuesday.
And that's a loud message too, right? Think about that message by itself.
Yes.
And there is this hidden, I guess there's some secret book somewhere that Blacks got to vote Democrat. So I guess there's this book we don't know nothing about. Right. But that sent a message. Hartford Black folk, Hartford brown folk, Hartford poor folk sent a very clear message. Dems, we don't even care your party name. We voted for a different guy because these were Dems, right? So
these were all Democrats.
Right, all Dems.
Right.
And so your Dem still didn't win by a landslide.
That is
so
key.
It doesn't mean that's every right. Yeah.
That's key. That's key. 2,000 votes was the highest vote getter. Yes. That is not a landslide by any stretch.
Not a landslide for 30,000 voters. You know you don't have a GOP population.
Right.
Most definitely don't, right? That's why people don't even want to touch Hartford. Because they're saying, because again, people don't want to, and for people to tell me, as a parent organizer, girl, I don't even know why you even keep going up to Hartford. Hartford is a lost cause. That's an exact quote. That's an exact quote from Black folk across Connecticut. Hartford is a lost cause. But you can't say Hartford's a lost cause because that means you're saying our children are a lost cause. You're saying our elder and our veterans and just great people who are lost causes. That means humanity is a lost cause. I don't think so.
That's right.
Because we all got to live in the great state of Connecticut. And if people don't like Connecticut, you can always move. I mean, we got some issues. But Hartford sent a very good message. And I'm going to toot it wherever. Number one, Democrats, you're not as safe as you think you are. You think Black folk just going to blindly vote for you just because you are Dem? Just because you Black? You learned on Tuesday primaries, number one. Number two, it goes to show how unhappy people are. Not just unhappy, how fearful. People are afraid right now, in a different kind of fear, because it's one thing to be fear from a pandemic, right? Fear from, you don't know, medical, right? We're not doctors, right? So that's one kind of fear. It's another kind of fear that says, vote for me because everybody else hates you. Vote for me. I'm the best candidate just because. Just because what? Then when we look at the career politicians' voting records, you got to wonder. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what color the legislator is. If you look at some of the voting, some of the records of some of these career politicians, these laws were bad for black folk, bad for brown folk, most definitely bad for children. And then yet you want us to vote for you despite how you vote? Hartford voted. Hartford voted with its feet. Granted, it was a small number. But I was reading an article that it says, and it was talking about the gentleman who just won. How do you say his name? I don't want to tear up his name.
Arunin.
No, congratulations, won the primary.
Arunin.
What was his name?
Arunin.
Arunin. He said something very profound in the article, and it was his organizer. He said they had to take into account, and I'm paraphrasing, the low turnout. So that's why they had to be extremely organized, right? So I say that to say to any candidate that's running for office, these are very so uncertain times that there's no guarantees, right? Career politicians, especially in Hartford, you thought there was a guarantee. Let's see, they thought that despite how they treat the people, they were going to be reelected for the 19th time, 19th year, 19th term. Hartford said, I will go with an outsider, unknown person before I go back to what we came from.
That's right.
That's a powerful message.
It is a powerful message. It's a powerful message because there's a couple of things happening there. I think the silence speaks loudly, right? The silence speaks loudly in the low voter turnout. But I think the other thing, to your point about we're not just going with the same thing anymore. You had said something in a conversation we were having yesterday that really struck me and just been playing in my head. You said the people are hurting. The people are hurting. And that's the other really fallout that we're seeing right now with these numbers. And that has to do with the bad policies that you referred to as well. And we're not going to continue to put people in office who are creating and perpetuating the conditions that we're fighting against.
Right. That's hurting us, right?
Right.
The very things that are hurting us. So going back to this gentleman, again, he said he recognized that you were going to have low turnout. So that means anyone's running in general, we're going to have to pay attention to the campaigns. We're going to have to pay attention to the fact that people are very unsure now. So I'm going to say to any candidate running, you're going to want to come there with your soundbite, with your rah-rah. We need you to slow it down and talk to people, not at people. Talk with people. Talk how you're going to do this journey. Talk about how we're going to be elected. When I was running, even though it was a short term because I was exploratory, because I had just lost my son, so I didn't think I was going to be able to stand. But I wanted to take a temperature of how it would fare, because that is one of my life goals, to run. I happen to know I can't run now, God, because I know I'm gonna be impeached. See, it took years for them to impeach. They gonna impeach me in day 2 in Connecticut, I'm sure, because some of this craziness happened. But again, if we talk to the people, your husband's running, right? That's important. Mm-hmm. People call Brother Stan, Mayor Stan, for years. Mm-hmm. Now Hartford has to make a decision. Granted, this 14% put this amazing dad. I don't know him, so he's probably an amazing guy. The people voted for him. I respect the people's decision in the primary. Now, Hartford has to now make another decision. I'm hearing that he's an outsider, and I'm not even going to say outsider in a negative term, meaning, right, he's coming into Hartford's community. He's made it his home, right? But then you got those who have been a part of Hartford's journey.
Right.
And that could be a brother Stan. And so the question becomes, why would we want to vote for brother Stan? Why would you want to vote for the other guy? So I think Hartford's going to have two dynamics, because you have a strong Hispanic population. Is he Spanish?
No. His
Is
actual
it Cuban descent?
Sri Lankan.
Sri Lankan. Okay.
Yes.
Because I seen that, because that's some of the questions I heard. People thought he was Spanish. And so they say, when you know that now you're going to have some different dynamics in Hartford. Now you got a large urban population that's majority Black and Hispanic speaking, right? Spanish. So then the Latino. So now you have two diverse candidates, right? And if you think about, what was her name? Tate or Tatum? Remember that book, Why Do All the Black Children Sit Together in the Classroom?
Yes.
That's what you're going to see happening, right? We're going to see, just like Obama. If you think about, people say, why did you vote for Obama? Girl, I voted for him because we got the first Black president.
Right.
Right? You got others who voted for what he stood for.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to account for that population that will vote for the other candidate because he's Cuban, Spanish descent. You got a large, and then you got those that will gravitate to Brother Stan. I'm just using those two. I'm sure there could be other players.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just using because for the sake of this podcast. Right? And so there's going to be, so you're going to have the voters that are going to vote for Stan because he's Black. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to vote for Spanish. So we have to take those numbers into account. Then we got to do the other parts, right? The issues. And so that's why we got to get those numbers up, because you have we're going to have to look at populations. And the reason why I'm talking about this now, because Hartford's it's going to help smaller towns like Middletown, Meriden. And that's why I'm watching it, because in our towns, we have smaller Black populations. We got, a third Black in Meriden, 44% Hispanic, right? Then you have other. It's mostly Italian.
Mm.
So we never going to be able to vote on someone for a color of their skin. Right?
Right.
We won't get that luxury. We're going to have to really look at individuals and what they stand for. So that is what I'm saying to Hartford. I say this long way, so thank you for for giving me this grace to say that. Because Hartford, you got two sets of dynamics going on. You got to look at your Black and Hispanic populations, because they're going to gravitate. You're going to get those votes. That means Stan's not going to get some of those Hispanic votes by virtue of Cuban, and vice versa. Right? So let's get that out the way. Now that's why we got to focus on the issues. Right? That's why we got to focus on what's really happening in Hartford. Because that's how they're going to come down. Your Hartford's going to come down to an issues vote, because you have such strong urban populations of Black and Hispanic, and you got two very strong, diverse candidates. So yeah, Hartford's going to be the state to watch.
Yes, absolutely. No, thank you for breaking it down that way. I think that is coming through very clearly. But the dynamic that you're striking, between race, identity politics, and then issue.
Exactly.
Issue based. Right. Good. Exactly. And you're right. I see it that very same way. And people are going to have to really look at the candidates and say, who has been here in Hartford, who understands the issues that the residents are facing, and really make their decision based upon that. Now, because I think there is a smaller percentage that will look at and go with the identity politics, because I think having two career politicians in the race, the issues were, that was loud and clear. It was like, you haven't been addressing, been addressing our needs in this city.
Right.
So we're not coming for you.
And we voted like as such.
Right. Exactly.
So I like what you're saying. I want to unpack that, Pete, when we talked about identity politics in the small percentage, because we also have to take note of this candidate, the one who just won the primaries. And I think he was also endorsed by Luke Bronin.
Right.
Am I right?
That's correct.
See, now, Hartford, you're going to have to take that into account as well. Because y'all got to take it. Now, again, I'm an outsider looking in, so this ain't me talking about your house. It's your house. But you know what? We got to look at how y'all got Luke Bronin, right? Like, I don't know. Like, y'all have some, I don't know. So I don't know if I would, this would be me, right? Luke Bronin was, to me, an outsider.
Right.
It was known, whether it was true or not, right, that he had career ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw that in past elections. Well, he was about to drop y'all like a hot potato to win some other races. Then when he didn't win, you understand? He went on to bigger and better things. So Hartford, you're going to have to unpack that too, because your current mayor supported your current person that won the primary. So I would be concerned is a quid pro quo, right? I'm not questioning the man's integrity. You know, I'm not questioning anything. I'm just talking about people are hurting, so we don't get the luxury of not unpacking everything.
Right.
Because we're hurting. We had to go to court. Hartford had to go to court to go against your racial quotas with Sheff versus O'Neill. If I was living in Hartford, I want to know what your primary person got to say about that. I want to hear what he has to say about that, because you're not from Hartford, but you came in like a whirlwind and now you won Hartford. So while that is a victory for Hartford as it relates to voting for the other guy, sending a clear message to career politicians, even though some of these folk I believe is criminal, don't get me started. But I'm not saying nothing about Hartford, I'm just saying, right? But you also got to look at how this guy came to be. Did he run before? Have we ever heard of this? Even if he's not a politician, people voted for him because he wasn't a career politician, I'm sure. That's one. But number two, who is he really? He came in, from what I'm reading, again, this is just me as an outsider, as an extension of your current mayor.
Yeah, that is very, very true. There are so many similarities between the two of them. It's actually quite striking, and borderline scary how the pattern. There's a pattern here now where someone can move into the city, right? Serve in a couple of key positions that are also handpicked and selected, right? Follow the same pattern, become a member of the town committee, and then receive the endorsement. Like it's a pattern now that we're seeing.
Let me tell you why. If you let me put a pin in it, and again, I'm going to work on my not just interrupting, I am practicing. Let me tell you why. Let's go back to the commissioner's race. Do you remember, this was several years ago, before we got Commissioner Miguel Cardona as our current United States Secretary of Education. Mm-hmm. He used to be Connecticut's Commissioner of Education. When that process goes, I should know, because I did an FOI. So everything I'm telling y'all about Ms. Gwen right now, I got receipts. This ain't no black woman making something about black versus Hispanic. I'm talking receipts. The Bloomfield superintendent got an offer letter, y'all. An offer. He's black. Mm-hmm. I forgot his name. He is the superintendent for Bloomfield, Connecticut, which is in the proximity of Hartford. He got the endorsement, got an offer letter to be the commissioner. Miguel Cardona was the assistant superintendent in my town of Meriden, Connecticut. a young Hispanic guy, right? I love the Cardonas. Their father is in internal affairs. They're with the police department. So this is no shade. So the separate knowing individuals as people and human beings and knowing them in the political space and elected position. Two different. So I tell folk in a minute, I can vote, go to church with you, break bread with you, and not vote for you. One doesn't equal the other. Please, one doesn't equal the other. They can visit your church and you still can vote for somebody else. I'm just throwing it out there. But anyway, so you had the Bloomfield superintendent get the offer. From what I understood was that Secretary Cardona, as a young Hispanic up-and-coming individual, was going to be taught and groomed because so that you can have a Spanish commissioner. But because of the politics of things, they decided they wanted Miguel now. And from what I understood, they didn't even notify. This is how much they think about us. They didn't even notify Bloomfield that they weren't even going to consider him. So I FOI'd the resume, everything. I needed the communications because I don't know how you can go from an offer letter to voting for the other guy. And they did it because he spent. So I say that to say, Hartford, you are going to have to make a choice because as great as this guy is from the primary, you can't ignore how he got there.
Yeah.
It's like he came down from a balloon in the sky. And
That's
now
right.
he's your endorsed mayor. And again, this is not saying he's not a great man. Probably got I'm sure he got a great wife, great children, probably a great person. But Hartford, you are the fourth poorest, let me repeat that, in a world of millions and hundreds of million people, you are fourth poorest in a state that is deemed one of the wealthiest in the country. So you don't get I respectfully say, you don't get the luxury of just letting someone just come down in a balloon and say they want to represent you. You're going to have to do some vetting. He has to prove himself. Brother Stan has to prove himself, and he has proven himself. And he continues, and he's a pillar. Now, for the record, full transparency, I support Brother Stan. And I don't live in Hartford, so I won't have any impact. But I will say what I know for what he has done for you. I can speak to his receipts as an education leader. I'm not thinking I'm all of that, but you know I'm a force to be reckoned with for children. So I would like to think I have enough reputation to say that a Brother Stan as your mayor, you're going to have a people's government, if nothing else. Now, does that mean you're going to have another Obama moment where y'all think that you can just say it, you know what I mean? And have all these unrealistic expectations of him? Brother Stan will still be human. And he's coming into a tsunami of hurt people. But you do have a candidate that's from your city and that has put his money where his mouth is and has showed up. Now, granted, you may have other candidates that I don't know about. So I want to be fair that you have other options. It's not just Brother Stan, and it's not just this young man who just won the primaries. But what I will say is, do not let these people drag you down a rabbit hole. Come together as a people. And last thing I'm going to say, then I know I'm long-winded, but I just came from Pennsylvania as well. They're going to want to divide you because you have other candidates. I'm saying to you, have a family meet in Hartford. Let's narrow that thing down. So it's going to be Brother Stan, it's going to be this primary. It's going to be whoever it's going to be. Narrow that thing down. Because if not, you're going to have some upsets coming in. The wrong people are going to get in office, and the people you want in office may not get there. And I'll give you an example. I visited Pennsylvania over the weekend. I was invited to a conservative event. and I want you to be clear for the record. I have been a Democrat when I needed to be. I have been a Republican. My grandfather from South Carolina, from the ruralest of South Carolina, was a proud carrying Republican card. In 1975, I had to look at the date, y'all. Right? But here's a black man that was a Republican. I say that to say, don't you get caught in these party affiliations. You need to see what you need. My grandfather, from what I learned from my dad, was a Republican because back then all they talked about was hard work. Do this, you do this. My grandfather was a hard worker. But the other side was saying, no, black people, you've been from slavery, from civil rights. You are victims. You need us to come save you. You need us to come till your land. You need us. My grandfather's like, oh, no, I can handle my own business. I can raise my own kids. Just give me as much fair access as I can get to opportunity. And that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So I say that to say, let's not get caught in this party stuff. Because most of my successes have been through conservatives. And that's it. I'm sorry, I don't digress. But I just want, it's important for Harper to understand that when I went to Pennsylvania, the Latinos I saw there, they weren't out here making all these noise, oh, the white men, they weren't doing none of that. They were finding who they were going to run for their primaries, and they ran them. Mm. And they're out there, right? And they're doing it. Now, granted, they can choose some other Hispanics too. They got other people running. You understand? But they're making a family decision like, no, we got to narrow this down. So Hartford, yes, you got more candidates running, but you just had a wake-up call. The status quo got a wake-up call. So the ball is in your court right now. So they're scrambling. Now they're having secret meetings, code red, DEFCON orange. What? They're going crazy right now. But you need to say, let's narrow this candidate down. Talk to some of these other candidates. See if they still want to stay in the race. Maybe y'all can join forces. I'm talking to the black community now. Hispanic folk gonna be fine. Please believe that. Please believe that. I'm talking to the black community of Hartford. I'm not saying vote for Brother Stan or vote for the black candidates because they're black or brown. What I'm trying to say is, whoever you want to win in November, you need to start to galvanize around them now. You need to start, if you know other candidates that you know just not going to have a good chance. Yes, that's the American dream. But right now we need to be strategic and focused. That is how this primary guy said he won. He recognized he had a low turnout, so their campaign became laser focused, strategized. So I'm saying that to the black community of Hartford and to the brown community, but I knew the brown community going to be fine in Hartford. So please, let's start to talk to each other. Y'all got to figure this thing out. Or if not, you ain't going to get none of your candidates. And some stranger going to be able to come in on a blimp and win. I'm sorry. I'm done.
No, I appreciate everything that you're saying because here at Access TV, at any rate, we believe in giving voice to really the voices that are on the margins. And it's time to pull people in. It's time to pull people in to the center and shout this from the rooftops. And so as we come to the end of the program, I want to go back to where we started, that this is a win.
Yes.
This is a win. And this is a win for Hartford. Hartford has a choice, but victory is right at hand. Right. If they can hear what you're saying on this program, Gwen, this is not a hopeless. These numbers look low, but it's not a hopeless situation.
Yes, it's a win. And you're right. And I will say this because we're in the end. Mm-hmm. I am launching, not Connecticut Parents Union. I also have another nonprofit. I'm speaking to the black community, and it's for the black community. It's called Pride and Prejudice, Inc. I did it in partnership with an amazing woman named Helen Preble. She was a very wealthy woman, a conservative, right? And the reason why I'm saying that because she was my biggest ally. And she was saying, Gwen, I love to work with you because you have an open mind to want to learn, try to figure out how we can find synergy, right? And I want the world to know it's okay that we can agree to disagree. It's okay if you don't like black people, to be honest. It's okay if you don't like white people. Welcome to America. But what you don't have to do, what you don't have the right to do, is to harm people, to deny them access to opportunities. So we would need to figure out how to coexist. And as a result, I'm launching the Vote for Other Guy campaign. We're actually in website development. This is Gwen Samuel, the parent. This is not any org. This is a Vote for the Other Guy campaign. I actually tweeted that Harvard unofficially did the Vote for the Other Guy campaign. Mm-hmm. Because your career politicians knew when they went to bed the day before that they were eschewing regardless. And Harvard said, no, we're hurting right now. And we're about to make an informed decision. Mm-hmm. And Harvard did it. So votefortheotherguy.com. It is going to be a movement, but it's focused on education. So I got this t-shirt on, turn it up for education. Our children are hurting right now. Suicide is at its highest. It's been for young people. They're thinking life is not worth living because of our adult madness. So I'm asking us to do what Harvard did. Look at the candidates and make an informed decision. And if you feel that the career politician, the incumbent, doesn't have your best interest at hand, it's okay to vote for the other guy. And you did that in Harvard on Tuesday.
That's right. All right, Gwen, we are going to leave it right there, but we're going to check out all the things that you laid down in today's Civic Beat. So I thank you again for joining us this morning. We definitely want to have you back. We got to have you back before November. Before November 7th.
Go down, Harvard. Yes. The whole country watching y'all. Oh my God.
All right. We are at our time here on Civic Beat. Please continue watching all the great programming here on accesstv.org. We are here for Hartford.
Yes. Bye-bye.